Welcome to the Joe Pavich podcast. This show is all about what got people where they are today. Work-life mix, struggles, the grind, the process, and the message. Welcome to the Joe Show. Today I'd like to introduce my guests, Alex Joseph and Jeff Delaney, TClinics, Nuviva Weight Loss. I got two guests on the show today, boys. I mean, this is the first time I got two people. Great to see you guys, man.
We're honored.
See you too, brother.
Man, today's gonna be fun. You know, we're gonna kind of go back a little bit. You know, go old school because I've known you guys for 20 plus years.
Back to the Asia
We're
days.
honored to be your first threesome. I mean, we really are.
Back in the day, you know, we've come a long way since you know, the Beat Club and downtown pizza. You know, now if I eat a slice of pizza, Jeff, you might
you got to hear Jeff coming for you.
You might give me the look, man.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. So you guys are partners in the business, TClinics and Nuviva. It's like he's the DJ, I'm the rapper. You know, that's DJ Jazzy Jeff, you know, back in the day. But
Milli Vanilli.
I like that. So you guys, you know, it's cool because you kind of learn your strengths and weaknesses, right? I mean, you're kind of boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've been partners for close to 20 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I've been married for 22, maybe 3. Shit,
Longer than I've been married.
Sorry, babe. Somewhere between 22 and 23 years. I feel like I've spent more time though with Jeff along the way because like as a business partner is like he's the equivalent of my wife, my business wife. So
I talk to you more than I talk to my wife.
Yeah, we've had some ups, some downs, some rough, you know, patched way along the way. We brought some other people into our relationship and
they don't play well in the sandbox.
Grown with some and some others. We've had some static, but yeah, we've made it the test of time together.
Sure,
so
that's great.
We are.
Man. Well, that's the hardest part in business, and that's kind of why I do the show, is because everybody looks at what other people do and they think that this is easy, right? I mean, how hard could it be? But there's a lot of struggles, man. It's not so much how you can get through great times, right, when things are easy, but it's what you can do when things go bad.
Yeah.
You know, you guys stuck together, right? You got rid of the weak links, and here you are.
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys have such a full circle of things you guys do. I remember back in the day, bodybuilding, that was your thing, right? I mean, you were training people. I remember everybody that was doing a show would come to me and I'd say, who's training you? And they'd say, Jeff. Jeff's doing my nutrition, which I thought's pretty cool, man. So
yeah, I used to do mostly athletes and, you know, bodybuilders. It was just, you know, I always thought that was the pinnacle of showcasing nutrition if you get someone down to that elite body fat percent.
Sure.
So it took a whole another level of discipline too.
Oh, man. Well, you guys are certainly stay in good shape, so you definitely practice what you preach, that's for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Jeff, the bodybuilding thing, so you did that for a while, right? I mean, that's when I met you. I mean, I think you were doing shows back in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah, 2004 or 5. I was probably the best second place finisher there was.
Second place trophies all over the place.
You know, it's funny. I talked to a lot of people just over the years, and some people just genetically have it. Like, you know, you look at like some of the best bodybuilders, like the Lee Priest or the Ronnie Coleman, or the, you know, if you want to get into like the was it Leverett or the newer Derek, not Leverett.
Guy just won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, like that, they already have it, you know, and it's
Lunsford.
like Lunsford. Yes, I knew it was an L. But it's like a lot of people think they could be at that level, and even
Joe and I aren't bodybuilders, by
That's
the way.
right.
Well, listen,
You look like you could do a show, maybe.
But there's levels.
Have you seen me from the waist down?
There's levels to
From
it.
the knees down. Let me preface that.
Yeah, the calves limited.
The calves
for sure.
definitely limited my ability to.
But I mean, like
Take
a lot
that
of people
one
think they
spot.
could, you know, be at that level, and just genetically to be at the pro level, even with all the drugs in the world, if you're not genetically gifted, it's probably not going to be in the cards, or you're going to kill yourself trying.
Sure.
And I realized that early on. It's like, all right, I'm not meant to be like, I'll do it as something to train for and obviously perfect my craft with nutrition. Sure. So it was more just a love of nutrition.
And as one of Jeff's very good friends and his business partner, he and I had to have a talk along the way. And I said, Jeff, I think it's time for you to hang up on this dream of being a bodybuilder and start focusing on our business and
That's
career.
right.
And as much as I think like it lended his ability to really be great at what we do,
Sure.
it also is in its own way distracting and exhausting, and it's
time
seeing somebody
consuming.
go through it when you're really close to somebody, how much dedication and time, man, it's
I can imagine.
brutal. Like brutal
I was with
on
some
his,
friends
on his
that
brain, on his body, and time.
Well, I think Steve, didn't you train Steve, right? Malachi?
Yes.
And I remember around the week prior, I mean, I didn't even want to talk to him. I mean, it's just miserable, right? Just the diet and everything else. But it's funny because I'm Italian, so I like to eat. I can only imagine having to like stick towards a regiment like that.
You'd
things are a little
be
different
angry too.
nowadays because there's all these medications that make that process so easy, theoretically easier. But yeah, that's why I never ever wanted to do it. I like to diet to a point,
Sure,
but sure as hell I'm not getting to that point.
I mean, when you've never done it, like that's why most people end up pissed off or angry, or they just turn into a hermit for the last month or two.
yeah. It's almost like your first show is probably like just practice, right? To figure out, because you could have the best build in the world, but if you can't pose and you don't have the stage presence, I think you might take second, third, fourth,
like I said, it was a good.
10th.
I'm not like die-hard bodybuilding, I guess. Like it's a weird sport.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of
Some
weird.
people take it way too seriously.
Yeah, like
you're not making money from it.
Yeah,
or an influencer to a point now where you make money online from it. It seems like you're dedicating a lot to something that has a very little return.
I use it as an outlet, as a reason to train or eat better or exercise. Like I always had sports, and then when I didn't have sports, I had powerlifting. When I didn't have powerlifting, then it was like bodybuilding. Like what else am I going to go to? Like, you do it to maybe look good, pick up a girl, but then you get with a girl and then you're kind of married and you get comfortable. I'm like, well, shit, I need something else to like give me some motivation to actually put some effort in the gym. So
it's cool kind of knowing like what to put in and what you look like and how to eat and everything else, because that's what you do now. So it's sort of, it's come full circle, which is awesome.
Food is medicine.
And that's what's made our ability to do what we do so good at his experience and having worked with the people who were the extremists.
Yeah.
All the way down to the people who were novice and amateurs, and so it gave us such a big opportunity to really have like a really educated person involved who has gone through it personally and trained a lot of people and seen what that process is like. And that's kind of how I brought Jeff into this partnership, because originally I had started a hormone replacement business before starting the weight loss business. I had started a clinic in around 06, 07, when the real estate market started falling apart. So I was in the real estate business prior to that. You can go through the original heyday. And then around 06, 07, I said, well, there's this opportunity to get into the health field.
Yeah.
I had a friend, a partner, Dr. Arsmont, who was willing to do a hormone replacement practice with me. And at the time, I only knew of them because I remember reading like the Rob reports all the time. And in the back, there was like this Dr. Light, this really ripped, like 7-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Like you probably remember. Synergenics. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? This is a cool looking business. And I had dabbled with my fair share of steroids and growth hormone and stuff up until this point. And this is me in my early 20s. And I was kind of banged up. My hormone levels were. And I went to Dr. Arsman as a friend and said, like, can you help me? And so he's like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll put you on testosterone. We'll get you, kind of lined up. And I'm like, man, this seems like a good business, model.
Yeah.
And having been in pretty good shape, I had a lot of people coming to me and asking for like steroid advice and supplement advice. And then knowing that Jeff was one of my good friends from the gym, everybody's leaning on him for diet advice. I'm like, maybe there's something here.
Yeah.
We opened up the first hormone practice, and really quickly after, I said to Jeff, why don't you come on board and help me with my clients doing the diet part?
Sure.
And we married the medical component with the dietary component, and it just took off.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it gave people who wanted that medical exposure, meaning they wanted the drugs and they wanted the product to feel like this is the thing that finally I can sink my teeth into. And then Jeff really giving me an outline of really great nutrition plans.
Yeah.
And then taking his personality and patience, which Jeff is, for those of you guys know, everybody loves Jeff.
Yeah, that's right.
So he would work with the clients and get them to be willing to like follow the diet programs. And we just did so well with it. And I'm like, wait, we got something.
He sees that working for you and he says, we can work with this.
Yeah. So we took one office, which we opened in Fort Myers, which I had. It was a little tiny 900 square foot office, and we were maxed out. And then we simultaneously opened a second practice in Naples, and Jeff and I kind of divided and conquered.
Yeah.
He went to Naples and I stayed in Fort Myers. And if we built the website, we're like, well, why do it for one? We might as well do it for two. If we're going to spend money for marketing, do it for two. That expanded into two quickly. And then we continue to grow from there.
Oh, that's great. Well, back then, I mean, I remember hearing about this from Jen. I never even heard of that until I heard it from you.
Yeah.
From her through you. And I'm like, man, this is cool. You were kind of like an OG, I think, down here, right? Were you
it
the
was
first
taboo,
one?
for sure.
I was, yeah. I mean, I don't know if anybody, to a point, I didn't even know if what I was doing at the time was allowed. Like, I truly didn't know if it was legal. I'm like, can I open a business? Am I allowed to own a doctor's office? Like, I don't know. Like, sure, let's try it out. And I had nobody to lean on. There was no other points. There's a couple in like Miami and LA, you would, at the time, and shit, this is 08, like there wasn't very many like Google options to search things. There was no social media really. Facebook was out, but I tried it and just figured it out, and yeah, I was the original one in town. I think there was another guy that had messed with it at the time, and there was a Medi Weight Loss had opened, which is still today
Sure.
to this day open. They were very commercial, and they were a franchise model, so they weren't really innovative. And funny story, Jeff and I's original company was called New Life Medi Weight Loss, and within like a month of opening, we get a cease and desist.
Oh, did you really?
You can't use that terminology, Medi.
Like, yeah, you got to cut the Medi part.
So then we're like,
Yeah,
we were
such
New
a general term.
Yeah,
can't
like you would
use
think
that.
who could protect
Yeah.
Medi, but of course they did. But
It's like you protect real estate, realtor. Oh, you can't say it because
yeah, it has a trademark. Yeah. But your wife, I mean, she was being in the medical field. She actually was one of the first. We actually then split our business into a cosmetic practice, and she did a lot of great work with
That's
my
right.
wife.
She's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
I still refer everybody
Yeah.
looking for cosmetics.
She loves you
to her.
guys. She loves you.
Listen, she's the only person I
She had
I
worked
trust.
for our clinic going back to right out of school, I believe, when she
Yeah.
first got licensed to do the Botox and fillers and stuff,
Yeah.
and worked with my wife on it. And again, we had no idea how to conduct that business, but we just kind of figured it out. So entrepreneurship was a lot of trial by fire.
So how did you guys figure out in the beginning that this is legal and we can do this and we just have to comply with these rules? What type of regulations are?
I've always been a person that had that temperature of higher level of risk equals higher level return, but I was also not willing to put myself or the people I get involved in any type of level of risk, and especially doctors that put their license. So we hired attorneys and just asked the questions, what's the best way to do it, while flying as close to the sun as we can, but not getting burnt, of course. And we got a lot of different opinions at the time.
Yeah.
But finally I found this one healthcare doctor or a lawyer that really knew his stuff. And he's like, this is how you structure it. This is how you make sure you charge.
Yeah.
And, I felt comfortable enough to do it. And,
Sure.
20 years later, we're here. And, of course, like most things at work, every person along the way was like, like that sounds like a cool, fun business.
Sure.
And at that time, the real estate market was falling apart, and if you were around in the 07, 08 market, it was
man.
really scary.
I was going down with it.
I
It was pulling me down by the ankles.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people didn't make
Everybody.
it past that. There were people jumping off of bridges, and I mean, it was a rough time.
Yeah, it was.
And, I had a lot of people coming to me and saying like, "Oh, this is a great business. I'm thinking we'll get involved and want to do it." And I wasn't going to say don't, but I saw more popping up, but regulations in our business were always changing, and there was definitely some headwinds that we had to go up against, and we did.
I think during that time too, you had a lot of people that were like, everything was on a downward spiral, and they started like, well, shoot, I'm gonna invest it in my health or feel a little bit better.
That's right.
So they were, kind of open arms, like ready to take the dive when it came to HRT.
People think it's funny, like they're like, how did you do so well financially during that time? I said, people stopped paying their mortgages. They stopped paying for their cars.
Yeah, that's right.
So they had dispensable money. They had money.
Yeah.
They were like, well, if I'm not paying my mortgage and my car bill, I'm going to go and get some Botox, and I'm going to go ahead and get some growth hormone or whatever it was. So they felt like I'm not going on vacations. And, a lot, again, at that time, if you lived through that, it was like people were driving Ferraris and everybody had diamond watches. It was obnoxious, especially here in Southwest Florida.
Of course, yeah.
Every guy we knew, they were on the covers of magazines on their Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
So the people were doing
With their arms crossed, like
Yeah,
EPMD. Remember the old cover EPMD,
Yep.
the BMWs.
Gangster. Yeah. So
Chilling.
people are flossing, but then they wanted to at least look good.
Yeah.
If they couldn't go on that trip or couldn't be flying private, they were at least going to invest in themselves to put up the persona that they were doing well. So we did well because it wasn't like a huge cost. It was expensive compared to nothing, but it wasn't the equivalent of a Mercedes car payment or a trip to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So you could do Botox fillers, get hormones, and it was still pretty affordable to a point where people felt good about paying for it.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. Health. It's like people will not miss an oil change, right? Get the tires rotated, but missing like health wise, people take it for granted. They really do.
But it's become the cool thing now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if it's the thing I'm into, but I feel like everybody I meet now, and maybe it's our age, I'm 46 years old now, and I feel like we all have to pay attention more, but it's the cool thing, right? It's the Gary Breckas and the Ben Greenfields, and everybody knows their biohacker, their favorite one. There's the Brian Johnson's on, Netflix now.
Sure.
And I'm never going to die.
Yeah, I mean, prior to this whole wave, I think a lot of people just didn't want to know. Like if I don't look at it, there's nothing wrong.
That's right.
But it was
that's
still,
how they would treat
it,
their
it
health.
was still a little like not spoken about loudly. I remember for a time where we would do it. Our big thing is we give out T-shirts, right, and we with hats, and it has our company's name on it. So if you're wearing that shirt to the gym, you're pretty much saying out loud, "Hey, I'm on testosterone or peptides," right? We didn't really have that client base that were willing really to speak out loud about me not being natural. Like it wasn't cool just yet, and it took a little time for it to become more socially acceptable.
Yeah.
And, that of course grew, and now it's like, I mean, everything on Instagram is some person talking about something, somebody running around a grocery store picking up why you shouldn't eat this, or going through a gas station, or doing whatever the thing is.
Is that hard though to see? Because I know that a lot of people that do that marketing don't know enough about it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people regurgitate information anymore. I mean, that's across the board on social media. You know?
And I'll give them this. I mean, there's a lot of mixed information. You know, like we've been trained to believe that doctors were trained in a certain way and that they're correct. And honestly, up until COVID, I was one of them. I believed that modern, traditional Big Pharma medicine was the right way. And I'll give you a perfect example. We've been taught for many years that, fat is a bad thing, and that you should guide yourself away from fats, and you should have more seed oils and unsaturated fats as a means of like heart health. And now we're finding out that's been wrong. We're finding out that, people who have high LDL prior to this were going to die of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Now you're
LDL.
Bad
Low
cholesterol.
density.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two cholesterol, HDL and LDL. Okay. Traditionally, you look at someone's cholesterol work and you would see LDL being elevated. You would say, well, you're a higher risk. My partner, as a cardiologist, would sit here and argue this point with me, and he would say, "You're wrong, Alex. Don't say that out loud." But I'm going to say straight up, like, our bodies depend on cholesterol for brain health and cognitive function and hormone, and hormone quality. But what I'm getting at is, like, traditional medicine has been taught by people who have a financial interest in you learning it a particular way.
Yeah.
One of the most common prescribed drugs in the world is a statin. Statins are given to people with high LDL. How do you train the medical industry to prescribe a drug to almost the entire population, to make them believe that that thing is bad that they're doing in an argument that you can't argue against, which is heart disease is a killer.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, heart disease is a killer. The culprit is LDL. This drug will create the problem. Therefore, you prescribe it. Well, if you're the pharmacy that makes money from that most commonly prescribed drug, you would think you have an initiative to lobby for that belief system. And again, during COVID, we started to see through the cloak, kind of peek behind the mirror, if you're whatever the term, the curtain here, and say, wait a second, like, is this vaccine the right way to treat me? Or maybe like getting some sun would be a better choice. And are there other options? Like, why is ivermectin being shunned, but this drug that has a huge profit margin being recommended? And, so I think a lot of people started to finally want to take their health and their life into their own hands.
Yeah.
I became hyper aware of the food quality, of the water quality, of plastics and things that I consume. And, I think a lot of people do. We all, he's drinking hydrogen water over here, and everybody has a red light now and does hyperbaric chambers or saunas, because we're all getting ourselves into this mindset that there's nobody else out there to protect me anymore. Like, I can't count on the government. I can't count on the FDA. I can't count on Big Pharma.
Sure.
Because they want me to be a patient. They want me to be a customer. They want me to be a statistic.
Yeah.
Fuck that. I want to take care of myself, and I want to take control of my own destiny. So I'm going to learn, and I'm going to study. And then we have this wealth of information on these phones. And so, like, when you go back to are we frustrated with people putting out information that is misinformation? Maybe to them it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe to them, whatever study they learned from or whoever taught them, to them it's correct. And maybe for the strategy that they're following, it fits into their plan. Or they're just trying to sell their way. Yeah. So what Jeff and I have to do is navigate through that, and decide what do we believe is the right path. What is the path that I'm willing to share, not only with my loved ones and myself for using, but also the clients that we work with.
Yeah.
Are peptides a better choice, or is glutathione a better option? Some of the medications we offer come with risk. Is a weight loss drug worth taking? Because the flip side of that is elevated blood pressure and high cholesterol and heart disease and whatnot. So like diabetes, like you have to weigh your risk and
sure,
the return on it. So
yeah, that makes sense. Well, you have to know it all, really. It's like my business too. You have to know enough, right?
And we'll never know
All
it
these-
all.
yeah.
You know, the time will tell.
Yeah.
I mean, for all we know.
Listen, science is evolving so fast, and just the amount of information and studies, but at the end of the day, the opportunity to be proactive in your health is bigger than ever.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people actually see that they get a bigger ROI on kind of taking it into their own hands
Yeah.
versus relying on maybe the government or the big pharma health system just in general. So
Totally.
And healthcare, like in any other business, if you're good at it, I mean, you're one of the top brokers in your market. I'd like to think we're one of the top in ours. You have to be a student. I'm a student more than a teacher.
That's important.
Joe's been a student his whole life
bet.
from the goat.
Yeah.
You have to be.
It's
essentially-
funny.
right, my
Someone
dad.
just
You have to
mentioned
learn
your
from
dad as the
somebody. Yeah,
goat.
you have to.
So you're the
willing to
goat's
learn.
son.
And when you think you know it all, if you think you have, someone's going to pass you by. This is a race. There is people biting at your heels every step of the way.
Yeah. That's a good point, because even like today, everybody wants to not take advice, right? Because that would show a weakness. Like, hey, I know everything, right? But you got to learn. You got to listen. Sometimes things don't go right. You got to adjust.
And what maybe used to work for you before doesn't work today.
That's right.
Because maybe that's become a more saturated way of thought, and
Yeah.
everybody's doing the thing that you maybe 2 years ago you did things a certain way that everybody's now copying and emulating. So you have to do something different.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
you're doing the same as everybody else,
Exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
even though you're the OG, nobody cares about that anymore.
Yeah.
And we're going through that right now in our weight loss practice. We actually are refinding ourselves in a company that's almost 17 years into our business. We're having to define ourselves differently from essentially everybody else that tried to catch up to us and tried to replicate our model. We then have to say to ourselves, well, that's cool and all that you guys followed us in our footsteps, but now what can we do to take us back to being
That's right.
a leader in our business? And we actually have to reestablish ourselves, and we've done a great job at that for kind of recreating our own program at times.
Yeah,
and
of
having to
course.
evolve. Yeah.
Earlier, you were talking about like fat, right? And eating not fat was good, right? You don't want to eat fat. I think I was talking to you the other day about this. When we were younger, we were programmed to protein and a little bit of carbs, right? Hardly any fat. And then I kind of look back and I go, man, I could have probably been in so much more better shape back in the day if I would have just, if I would have known you during those times. I could have been like, hey, Jeff, what do I got to do, man? I want to look better. I'm going to the beach this weekend. What do I got to do? But it's amazing, though. You're kind of programmed to think all these things, right? Where they're actually not bad for you.
I mean, I've told this story before in other podcasts. Like, one of the things that Jeff and I used to go to Vegas, and we would go to pool parties, and I used to just. It was wild what he was able to do with the way we looked in a matter of 2 or 3 days by just adjusting our food coming into it. And I'd be like, man, I'm not ready to go to the pool. He's like, just
Do
listen
this.
to me for the next 2 days,
Yeah.
And then come Saturday morning, I'm like, holy, damn, we look good. Just that science,
Yeah.
that working smarter, not harder.
Sure.
Right? So
Yeah, we just wouldn't eat a couple, for like
Yeah.
a day prior
It's
or
a
something.
quick fix.
just don't drink water.
Yeah, that's right.
Might pass out,
Yeah. You look good.
Yeah.
But
It's great.
but you look good.
Tell me about HRT, like some of the effects, like for men, women. Explain that to me a little bit.
Do you want to cover the female side? Because you actually,
I mean, listen, HRT, hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah.
So by definition, you're taking somebody, whether it be male or female, whose hormones, their sex-based hormones in particular,
Sure.
are not optimized to give them the benefit of what those hormones do. So in a female, you're talking about estrogen, you're talking about testosterone, you're talking about progesterone. In males, it's basically optimizing testosterone and modulating estrogen to a point. As we get older, naturally, our hormones decline. Men go through an andropause, which is a kind of steady decline of testosterone levels, and females go through a sharp drop off called menopause. And there's variables that whether a woman may have a hysterectomy that can change that quickly.
Sure.
if you mess yourself up,
Being
like
sick,
us.
other drug use, potentially some other outside contributing factors can decline hormones, and we're seeing a exponential decline in rapid pace of hormone decline now, especially with men. But we go through life depending on these hormones to define us. What makes me a man? What makes me a woman? There'll be people that are going to argue that with me, but I'm going to stick with there's two genders here. But what makes me a man? What makes me a woman? What makes me a man is I have an elevated testosterone levels, and those testosterone levels give me the ability to have more energy, more drive, more sex drive, more muscle tone, more ability in my mind to be steady-headed and conquer tasks and be more of a fire under my ass, and there are plenty of women that are driven individuals, but and chances are a lot of them do have a little bit of extra testosterone probably, but a lot of men who have optimized testosterone levels tend to be a more driven, a more focused, a more task-oriented person. People think it's like a bodybuilder's thing. If used in abuse, of course it can be, but to a point, the idea of hormone replacement is taking somebody from either the natural decline or maybe a level they never were and bringing them into a category that would be considered excellent or above level in men. In females, like a lot of women will go through this transition in life and they'll start complaining about things that they think is just natural with age, whether it be sex drive declining, disposition of body fat, their hair falling out, not looking as nice as it once did, their skin texture changing, nails being brittle, body, getting heavier. And oftentimes they think, well, I need to go into testosterone because this is the resolution. And unfortunately, it's not as simple. It's usually a balancing act of all the hormones. But going on hormone replacement is replacing your body's natural production. And with science and current, in men, there are ways to not just have to replace, there's actually a way to boost your natural levels too, which means you can kind of turn the volume up of your natural production, as opposed to the need of the replacement. Kind of like on a step ladder here, one step up the ladder is boosting, one more step up the ladder is replacing.
Do you start with the boost usually to see
in
how
some
that...
incidences, because there comes with a consequence in men on testosterone. Like, look, I'm 46. I've been on testosterone the greater part of my adult life. In hindsight, I wouldn't have changed anything about that because at the time we didn't really have as many options. But going on to testosterone replacement creates some risk of infertility, long-term dependency, some issues with prostate potential enlargement if that's something that's in your genetic predisposition, red blood cell development. And so if a guy's like in his early 30s and he's starting to notice a decline and he still wants to have children in his future, a smarter way of kind of climbing that ladder would be to take the boosting approach first. And then from there, once he's kind of accepted the fact that long-term use and infertility and other things are potentially coming down the ladder, bite the bullet and go on replacement. But then there's the reality that I like to recommend people, like my analogy is always, if you bought a car and you knew somewhere along the way you're going to put wheels and you're going to put a stereo on that car, you wouldn't wait until like halfway through that car's life to do that. You would do that on day one. You would put the wheels and do that because that way you only have that car for so long.
That's a good analogy.
Like, why are you going to drive around the car with shitty
with
wheels and a shitty stereo?
You don't get to enjoy it.
You're going to turn that car into the best car you can on day one, so you have it for as long as you can. And so, oftentimes guys will sit there and wait until they feel bad enough to raise their hand and say, I need help, and come to us and call us. And like in my world, it's like, don't wait until you feel bad. Catch yourself at the best because you only have so many years in this car, in this body of ours. And optimize that time that you have. And again, if that time frame requires a step to take one before the next, then that's a great way to go about it. But don't wait until you become halfway through your life of your adult life to recognize, now I feel bad enough to warrant the need to do something.
AJ, back in the day, you said you some steroids and things like that. When you started taking HRT and some of those things, did you mess your body up, your testosterone, to get it back to a normal level?
It wasn't hormone replacement. It was like
hormone abuse.
At that point. And I was right there with them. So we both were in the same boat.
Testosterone levels go on a scale of like 0 to 1,000. When you're talking about it's nanogram per deciliters and it's measured in blood tests. Most men in their early 20s are somewhere in like the 500, 600, 700 range. When I was 26, I did my testosterone level. It was a 67.
Wow.
And there's plenty of women out there with a 67. You're probably walking around like a 700 or so. Yeah. I mean, I was broke.
I feel like I'm probably in that range.
I was broke, man. But I did that because I did years and years and years of steroids when I was in college. And
so that just drives it down, right?
The testes got lazy.
And the thing is,
because it's not naturally
because
producing
it doesn't
anymore.
need to produce.
Yeah,
so the testes start not doing it.
Yeah, your testicles are like a factory, and they've been put out of business because you're replacing that hormone they produce for however long. And at some point you stop taking it, you expect that factory to turn back on. In some cases that doesn't happen. And it's self-perpetuating to a point because you try to come off and you feel like garbage.
Yeah.
and you don't want to feel like garbage. You know, you're like, okay, like how long is this going to take? Nowadays, again, science has created these post-cycle therapies and HCG and cloma where you can kind of turn the system back on. But I didn't have that luxury back then or know how to do it. So I broke myself.
Where's it at now?
Oh, shit. A couple thousand. No. I like to keep my levels around like 1,200-ish, depending.
And the max is?
Well,
you
no
got
max,
to
right?
remember though, when you take a shot, it spikes. So, you know, we always look at the shot.
The average.
So
right?
I keep myself 9 to 1,000. And everyone's a little bit different depending on side effects or if you make blood. Like, he doesn't have like a common thing that happens when you go higher with the testosterone level. You tend to get more blood cell production or polycythemia, where you have to donate blood. If I push myself to 1,100, I have to donate blood frequently to just thin the blood out. So, you know, it all depends on the person.
Interesting fact, though, like we talk about these numbers as being what's considered normal or healthy, but those levels are only normal based on the average population. Yeah. And so today in 2025, the average population of men our age walking around have significantly lower levels than of the 1950s. So in the 1950s, the average male had a significantly higher level. Yeah. So where my levels are now is equal to the high levels of like a man in the 50s. But if you look at on the scale now, I'm kind of off the chart. And that's sad because we compare ourselves against what's considered a sick population. Sure. Like for any females who are listening to this, you can understand a size 0 dress today is not a size 0 dress of 10 years ago. My wife is very small and she used to wear a size 0. Now it's like they don't even make clothes to fit her anymore because there aren't that many people her size. Yeah. You know, and so what they did was, instead of insulting these women that you have to now wear a size 8, they just dropped the size. Like, oh, it's the new size 4, you know, because a fatter person is more average. So same thing with hormones. They did it with vitamin D. They did it with this. They did it with hemoglobin A1C.
Let me ask you, does she wear kids' clothes then?
She just lives in ALO. That's it.
Well, she kept her clothes from back in the day. They'd be back in.
They're back. The pants and all.
Yeah, the Cavaricci jeans would be a big hit.
But I take 2 shots a week. You know, I split my dose into 2 parts, and my average is somewhere 12 to 1,500, depending. But then, you know, one of our jobs as a clinic, as opposed to going to like a bro science friend in the gym, is to mitigate the side effects and the dangers that can come from that. Sure. And like Jeff said about checking blood levels to see if one of the side effects of taking testosterone, which is the development of red blood cells called polycythemia, is that's a risk, because you can have a stroke, you can have blood clots, like you can have issues with that. I don't, by my genetic predisposition, have a big issue with that. So that's one thing I don't really have to be too worried about. Yeah. Another is prostate enlargement. My PSA numbers are always really low. I luckily have knocked on wood. I haven't had too much hair loss or other problems from it. Yeah. So I'm okay running a little higher, you know, and
you just have to monitor it, right? Keep an eye on it, see how your body, because you don't know how somebody's going to perform,
you put
right?
On it.
And it's like a fuel, right? It's like gasoline you put in your car. So if you're not using it, like you don't train, you don't have a high stress job, you're not very active, you're not gonna burn through it. Like I go to the gym, you know, 6 days a week. I have a pretty high stress position. I'm very active. I burn through testosterone really quickly. My body metabolizes it quite quickly, comparably.
So you need more than somebody else would. Mm-hmm. How about you, Jeff? How many times?
Twice a week. Okay. But I do 60 mgs twice.
Okay. So but you're like, what's your weight now?
Probably like 185.
Yeah, I'm like 215. So it's also kind of weight dependent.
But I could tell you, like, I could take it and I could be training hard and I will need more testosterone to get that same number, like he was saying. Or if I'm doing less activity. Sure. And that's why it's crucial. I always say, like, our clients are like, why do you got to do labs every 4 months? Because we need to adjust it per what's going on, where you're at in your life, so you're not running too high or too low. Yeah.
And to avoid the problems. Like anything else. I mean, the job of our practices is to make you feel good while trying to dodge as many health problems as you can along the way. I mean, we would be doing a disservice to our clients if we put them in the firing range of danger.
Or a lot of places just put them in a box and everybody gets the same amount. And that's part of the problem we face now, you know, being in the space for so long. It's a lot of people are getting into the space, don't really understand it, but they cookie cutter it for everyone. And that's where usually I always say the first 4 to 6 months is honeymoon phase and everything's great because you're going from low to high. Sure. But then that's where things start to break. You start having blood volume, issues or estrogen issues, and that's where mismanagement goes south quick.
Yeah, and I mean, it's important too for like people on our end of the business, and now Jeff and I don't do it as much because, you know, we have people work for our offices, but to like find out why is it you're doing testosterone to begin with? Like, are you just trying to get a little extra energy for your job to hang out with your kids? Or are you doing it because you're training heavy and hard? Because then we have an opportunity to really figure out like a protocol that's best for you, along with the physicians
Sure.
we work with, because we're not a cookie cutter. Like Jeff and I are different people. We're different than you. We're different than Blake. So each of us have a different objective, and how our bodies handle certain things. And then on top of testosterone programs, we also work with other, products like peptides and other stuff to really complement the program and make something a lot more comprehensive.
You said something earlier about training harder. You need more, testosterone, right? How about like your natural testosterone? Can you actually run that down the harder you train? Like athletes, would they have lower testosterone?
Yes, someone who's training hard or maybe not supporting the training with food.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll see a lower testosterone level, even though they look good, they're physically good. It's just a temporary snapshot. You got to remember the labs are a snapshot at that moment in time. So if you took that guy and let him rest for 3 days, he probably has a really good testosterone level.
Yeah.
So
But I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but because based on like if you were a natural person who's never done hormones and you start training heavy and hard, naturally your levels are going to come up to tolerate that new training model you're doing. But if you're training every day, overtraining, not sleeping, exhausting, running
not eating
marathons,
enough.
you're going to deplete that same battery. So I think there's a escalation in testosterone production to accommodate your new training.
Yeah.
But then there's a depletion of that newly produced testosterone because you're maybe overdoing it.
Yeah.
Well, if
That
you're
makes
not
sense.
supporting it with nutrition, sleep, and obviously keeping the training at a proper amount where you're not kicking yourself in the ass.
And stress is a killer, man. Like stress is one of the biggest things. And there's some people that are just not programmed for it. Like you'd be surprised. We'll see some guys that look like beasts. They're just athletes. They're just super well conditioned. They got great physiques. They're lean, vascular, do their blood work, and their testosterone levels in the toilet.
Those are the genetically
And you're
gifted
like,
guys.
what?
Yeah,
How did
yeah.
that happen? And then I've seen guys that look like complete puds, and their testosterone levels through the roof, and I'm like, man, you're just not using it
amazing.
as something. So
What are some misconceptions about HRT?
I mean,
and it make
go ahead.
well, I think that it's automatically going to give you the side effects of like hair loss. It's automatically going to give you the
People would
acne.
assume, right?
Yeah, they think
Yeah,
I go
yeah.
on this is going to happen.
It's going to make your wiener smaller.
Yeah.
And in theory, it actually looks bigger because the testes get smaller.
Yeah.
So
I think the misconception is also that it's not a permanent fixture once you start it. We have to tell people like it's not always a permanent fixture, but you have to come to the reality that if you choose to go down this path, to be ready for it to be something that you're going to.
You're
going
gonna
to
have to do it every day, right? Or
Well,
not every day. I mean,
for
you're
the
gonna
rest of
have
your
to keep it
life.
up, right?
Yeah, because we can't like fix a person. You know what I mean? Like you're not turning their body's ability to produce more testosterone on.
Yeah.
You're supplementing it by the use of a hormone. Now, their boosting therapies can train the system to produce more, and that can actually continue on after tapering off of it at times. Usually that's with younger guys mainly. But most of the time when you replace somebody's hormones, you're that word in the R in the TRT is there for a reason. You're replacing the body's testosterone.
Sure. Back in the day,
And another misconception is that it's very expensive. It's not. It's a relatively affordable therapy.
and
for
how
most
much
people.
would it be a week for?
It's a monthly cost, anywhere from $100 to $200 a
Okay.
month. Depending on the complexity
that's-
of your program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
spend more on gas.
Inflation. Maybe you guys gotta.
We've
talk
been
about
fair with our prices, man. We get it. We don't want to be an additional stress to
Well,
people.
see, that's
and,
all your friends. They're all coming in.
and there's
clients.
a lot of
It's like me. It's like
yeah.
there's this cost of service, and you just want to do the best you can for people, right?
Yeah. And I mean, look, like if you're in a business where your time equals money, whether it be salesmanship or time you spent in your job, for most people, this is a great investment. Like if you're selling cars, you're selling houses, you're an attorney, you're a doctor, and you got more gas in the tank, believe me, you're going to make up the money. Believe me.
Or if you got a
gonna
lot
make
of
up the
kids and you're just trying to keep up.
money. Yeah. Or
So when you got to see people come back into you and say, "Man, I feel awesome. I'm so glad I did." It's got to make them feel 20 years younger.
super rewarding business, not just in the HRT, but weight loss too, man.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I would say to anybody who's considering this business. We've Jeff and I had this talk many, many years ago when we both got out of real estate at a time where people are losing their money financially and losing their asses.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult thing to be part of that process with somebody and seeing somebody financially struggle. But in our business, to see somebody like really their life change for the better, getting off medications or their personas changing, their look changing, these women coming in with a newfound sense of, kind of accomplishment and feeling good about themselves, people getting out of bad relationships. sometimes you're part of that too, but just making people happy. You know, I mean, like, what better than feeling good in your own skin? And
hence the brand, the new hats I'm seeing everywhere. What do the hats say?
Make America healthy.
That's
again.
right.
And obviously,
our
making
original was
men,
making men great again,
Right,
and then we do deal with women, so we had to make men and women.
Yeah.
But with the new Make America Healthy Again initiative, we're all about it. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Like if you don't want this country to be a healthier country, if you can't step back and look around at the people around you, go to Disney World any given day, or go to Kmart on any given day, Walmart or wherever. Look around, man. It's pretty scary out there.
Yeah.
We have some really sick, really unhealthy population in this country, and it's getting nothing but worse. And if somebody doesn't do something about it, like, we are not going to be a great country anymore. And it's going to be a healthcare burden, and there's going to be a really scary future.
I see your hats and shirts all over the place now. Everybody wears those hats and shirts. They're pretty shredded. They're in good shape, right? That's a good.
We only
brand.
get to the shredded ones, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why you got some.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how we can get me more shredded.
Yeah,
I got a big weekend. Can you get me shredded by Saturday?
How much time do I got?
You have a couple days.
Couple days.
Five days.
Jeff's got something in his little pill case for you.
Nice.
You're gonna be a little angry, but
So looking back, and you look at people taking tests like in the 90s or the 80s, right? It would change their structure, the faces, the bodies. Like a pro bodybuilder taking tests back in the day, how much would they be taking compared to how much you guys give?
I mean, those guys are running 4, 5, 6, 8 times, sometimes 3 or 4 different compounds versus just we're just replacing testosterone.
And that's not lab. I mean, that's not lab grown. I mean, that was in the streets, right?
Yep.
Well,
now it's all lab. Now it's all done in a lab.
Look, a
right?
steroid is a steroid.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and say the products that we give aren't the same as the ones that bodybuilders use.
Yeah.
Testosterone cypionate at 200 milligrams a week is what our bodies, 150 or whatever your number is what we can essentially utilize correctly. When a bodybuilder is doing 2,000 milligrams, which is 10 times, that's abusing the product, obviously. And then you add an anabolic compound on top of that to a person who's very muscular by nature to begin with, structural changes are going to happen. Their jawlines will change. By training heavy like that, your shoulders are going to broaden. You're going to get that growth hormone and insulin. They're going to get the distended stomach. They're going to faces grow. So yeah, I mean, don't unfortunately think by coming to us you're going to look like a bodybuilder just because you start to take testosterone. I wish we had the ability to do that, but we don't, meaning I wish it was that easy. It requires a very dedicated individual to get that level of muscle growth. And that misconception question you asked before, which is women going on hormones, have this thought that by going on HRT, they're all of a sudden going to become bulky and muscular.
That's right.
Or men going on it all of a sudden are going to wake up one day and look like Jeff or myself or bigger. That is not the case.
The best is when they come there like, so how long is it going to take to look like you? Like 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're training and eating and working out in it's going to make you a better version of yourself. It's not going to turn you to somebody you're not, and unless you're
it's hard work.
Yeah. I've been training heavy for 23 years. I mean, this doesn't come overnight. So the misconception is that people think by taking growth hormone products, peptides, testosterone, they're going to wake up looking like a bodybuilder. Sorry to burst your bubble. It's not that easy.
You're not going to consume that much.
Yeah. No. Is there an evolution of HRT? Do you see down the road it changing? And
yeah, of course.
What could happen?
I mean, I'd tell you, like, one of the newest things is just even like an oral testosterone, like the testosterone decanate, which goes through the lymphatic pathway, is kind of cool because so they're trying to advance, different methods. They're improving pellets. Not that we do pellets. We don't really like pellets, but they're making them a little bit more user friendly. So I'm curious to see.
To not have to inject them, right?
Well, so they'll implant the pellets into the glute, but like a lot of times you get site related pain. So there's some companies that are now putting like triamcinolone, which will actually prevent it from like getting scar tissue or excursion. So it's a little bit more tolerable by the client.
The newer evolution of our business is the use of peptides, though. Peptides are a string of amino acids that essentially are messengers to the body to do a task or do something. And whether that thing is to heal up faster, because there's literally peptides that can make your body heal from an injury faster. So like a Wolverine peptide like BPC-157 or TB500. There's growth hormone releasing peptides that can tell your pituitary gland to produce more of its own human growth hormone, testosterone, sermorelin, There's peptides that can make you not hungry, like these really popular weight loss drugs you're hearing about, semaglutide, tirzepatide. So these peptides are becoming the new kind of era of what our business is kind of headed towards. And past peptides will become genetic, like altering drugs that truly change the gene of your body, like to a point where you can splice genes and change them into doing different things. There are myostatin inhibitors. There's going to be ones that are going. Myostatin's a natural thing in our bodies that tell your muscles to not grow, right? So think about is it a hormone?
Well, it's a myostatin inhibitor.
So essentially, you have myostatin in your body, and no matter how much you go to the gym and work out, your muscles won't get past a certain point. That's why professional bodybuilders tend to either have very low myostatin or none at all. And you've probably seen some of these like dogs and cattle that have that obnoxious amount of muscle on them.
Yeah.
They have no myostatin in their system, and that's why they get extremely muscular. So they're figuring out other ways to do that to human beings. Where it becomes risky is that, you can't select just your bicep and shoulders and quads and pec muscles, because your heart's a muscle and other things in your body are muscles, and you don't want your heart to be giant and huge either. So how can you kind of get the performance enhancing component while not negatively impacting, the things that we don't want to affect? And so, that's, I think, what the future of our business eventually will become. And, getting into exosomes and stem cells for longevity and anti-aging and healing, NAD+, which is good for like cellular health, the use of older medications that are being brought back to the table, like methylene blue. We're really seeing kind of a renaissance right now in these cellular health and immune system modulating and true longevity-based therapies that are starting to become more popular than the idea of what anabolics do you guys offer. I get more calls now with what can we take to keep me healthier longer, living like healthier, as opposed to what can I take for bigger muscles. And I don't know if we all grew up in the years of the Rock and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and like that was the look. And I don't know if maybe now everybody wants to be the leaner, kind of smaller muscle tone look. I know Blake's back here. He's always more of I want to have a Brad Pitt physique than a Arnold Schwarzenegger physique. But the idea of looking leaner and having a six pack and living longer, I think is more people are striving for that nowadays than just getting big and jacked, and so.
Well, and I think too with peptides, the safety profile that comes along with a lot of the newer peptides, you're signaling your body versus say you take a medication or a statin, it might cause 5 other problems, whereas these can hopefully mitigate 5 more things that you have to take.
Yeah.
I would rather load up on peptides all day long than load up on
Well,
one
you do.
big. I do. Well, I do. I do load up on all sorts of peptides, and
Actually,
I'm scared shitless of big pharma drugs.
How many shots do you do a week?
I do about 5 or 6 shots a day.
Yeah.
I mean, a day.
People are like,
I do
one
growth
shot
hormone
twice
products.
a week's a lot.
I take,
I'm like,
I know a guy.
NAD+, GHK, which is a copper peptide good for skin and hair growth. My testosterone.
Hair looks good,
HCG.
by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
listen, we're all striving to have your hair.
You got good hair, Jeff. You got good hair, man.
We can correct a lot about ourselves nowadays, with a little bit of science and a little bit of hard work. I do a lot of other proactive therapies too. I sauna, red light, I do hyperbaric chamber, I work out, I eat really well, but at the same time, there's no way in hell I could be where I am without the assistance of science helping me there.
How about the cold plunge?
I have one and I fucking hate it.
Yeah. Everybody says that.
Right now it's because it's kind of cold out still. Like I have legitimately drained mine. So I actually this past weekend broke. It was like 85 degrees. I'm like, it's hot enough to where I have to start doing it again. So there's all signs coming out there proving it's not that better for you. So I'm sticking behind that.
Blake gets a little crazy with this. I think he takes down like 39 or 38.
Do you have one?
I don't. No.
It's miserable. Like. I think it is. Like I get out of the sauna, get into it, and it's 3 minutes of absolute agony, and I look for every excuse not to do it.
I did it when I came over. I was like, this sucks.
There's nothing
like,
fun.
No.
I mean, you do feel. Listen, I will give it to everybody who does it. You feel great when you come out. You feel wonderful. Like, and I think that's just because you feel so terrible in it. So the comparison between the terrible
when you get out,
and the
you're
one,
so
like,
happy.
I'm done. Yeah, it's like anything else. Like that was so miserable that anything else is not miserable.
I mean, I think definitely a mental win when it comes to doing that, like being able to put yourself through that every single day is just, it's going to lead to bigger wins than a lot of stuff that you do.
So I said to someone, I said, what's it like after you get out? He says, it's great. I feel
cold.
I feel great.
No, you
I
shiver
said, how
for
long
5
does it
minutes.
last? He says, 8 hours, the fueling. 8 hours.
Yeah,
I don't want
Gary
the last
Brecka,
2 minutes. I
well,
like to just get out and go, man.
I know Gary Brecka's always like, oh, it's the best drug I'll ever, I guess the greatest drug you could ever do. And Dana White's real big behind it. You know, for those seeking a replacement of one type of prop thing to another, hey, listen, if it's your thing, it's your thing. I mean, I like I said, I have one. I choose to not do it more frequently than do it. So
I guess there's a new system where it actually goes into your water system of the house. So when you turn the shower on, it is just 30 degrees. Yeah.
Ice cold shower. That's just even more miserable.
That'd be worse.
Like
I'd rather hop into a tub of cubes. That's for sure.
Like I went to spa in Vegas, and they had this like thing where it like rained down on you. Between the air and the rain being cold,
well, it was actually it was snow.
It was so much worse.
Yeah.
Plus, you could just press the button and get out. Like when you're in the tub, like you're in it. I think you just like you get so cold that you get numb in the shower. It's just so bad. I know Blake, when he goes up and visits his family in the winter, I think they live in like Virginia or something, turn the cold water on those things, and you're probably getting 30-degree ice shower out of that. There's just no way.
Just dig a hole in the snow, go out there and
I'm good.
I like a sauna, man.
Bury yourself up
like
there.
a hot sauna. I know therapeutically it's amazing. It's something I bought for myself when I bought my recent house, and I would recommend anybody out there listening, if you want to do something for yourself, buy a sauna, put it in your house, do it every day. It is the most rewarding, enjoyable part of my day. 200 degrees, 15 minutes, go in there. My wife and I both do it
200
together.
degrees.
Yeah, we both go in there
every steak in that thing.
You could, definitely. But I go in there at the end of my day, man. It's super nice. It's kind of the end of my work day. You sweat it out, kind of relax a little bit, take a shower. It's kind of the end of a day. But you feel so good, man. Like there's so many great health benefits from hot sauna.
Sure.
I know there's a little bit of discussion between the red light ones, or the true hot sauna. I use a true hot sauna, an infrared or hot. I like getting there being just hot, sweating.
Yeah.
Sweat out microplastics and some of the things that our bodies need to detoxify. And there's always studies about like heart health. So buy a sauna if you can afford one and you got a spot for it. Do it. It's and if you live in a community, like I used to live in a community that had one. I never did it because I didn't want to go downstairs, get on the robe, sit in there with 3 other guys with their
talk to everybody.
Guys' balls are on the thing. Like I just don't want to deal with that. Like the only balls I want on my sauna are mine. So
hey, what do you do for work?
Right. I got this conversation where you're naked, like dude.
He's like just stretching with his leg.
Yeah, there's always that one guy that wants to just like have his legs open too much, and I'm like,
There's a scene from the movie Hall Pass. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Where he passes out in the sauna. He wakes up and there's some action going on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple more. So Ozempic. Tell me about Ozempic. What do you guys think about that?
An amazing drug.
Yeah.
Ozempic is semaglutide.
Do you guys do that as well for people?
Yes, our weight loss business embraces and our hormone replacement business too. So we have 2 models. Nuviva medical weight loss, which is our in-office, come there, get shots, kind of do the whole in-office, very dedicated weight loss team. And then we have the TClinics, in which we offer these medications. We'll ship it to your house and you'll use it. Yeah. Semaglutide, which is what Ozempic is.
Okay, got it.
And then there's the newer one called tirzepatide, which is what Mounjaro is.
Yeah.
These 2 revolutionary drugs truly are revolutionary because they do everything they're touted to do. They make it so you're not hungry. They make it so you get full faster. They make it so your cravings are controlled. Yeah. They reduce blood sugar. They have cardioprotective benefits. They protect renal function. They will reduce Alzheimer's. They reduce inflammatory markers. Yeah. But they come at risks. They have side effects and and abuse. And for people who don't know what they're doing, are starting to create their own set of problems. They're starving the weight off and losing muscle mass and getting osteoporosis. And people who are going to uneducated clinics are realizing pretty quickly that you can only use so much of this stuff to starve the weight off before all of a sudden like that doesn't work anymore. So we're having to pick up the pieces. As I said before, we're redefining our business model. Yeah. Because these drugs give people the ability to be great at the dieting process, but it also gives people the ability to be great at starving the weight off process. And that's a really big no-no in the weight loss industry. It is. Because you're losing the good parts of yourself. Yeah. So
my dad. Yeah. That's his thing.
Yeah.
He's lost more weight. He's probably gained and lost over 3,000 pounds, literally his whole life. Yeah. Gained 50. I mean, you've seen him at many different phases. Mm-hmm. You know my dad?
I've met him before.
And it's sort of like the Ozempic diet mentality is really what he would do, because he would not eat a meal a day, start losing weight and just keep starving himself, right? And then he'd get hungry, 1 week he puts on 15
because
pounds.
then you lose the thing that creates the ability to burn those calories. You know, the horsepower that your body runs on is your metabolism. Your metabolism is fueled by your muscle mass. And if you lose your muscle in the process of starving, each time you take off 20 pounds and decide to eat again, you're going to put 25 back on.
Well, and you have to go harder the next go around to take it off, right? Because your body adapts.
Yeah.
So it's like it almost sets people up. They might have cut back some food, lost some weight, cool, and then went back to what they did. They put it back on, but they didn't pick up the metabolism.
Yeah.
They go to do it again. Now they're like, oh shit, it's not working. Or maybe I go a little bit harder. I eat a little bit less. And it creates this like false perception of like, I got to not eat to lose weight. And that's, I would say that's the biggest problem with the GLPs in the country right now is people are using that as the sole thing. More is going to create more weight loss. But what we find is more creates more problems. So we use enough to curb the appetite, to adhere to the plan. But our vehicle, we kind of stress, this is Nuviva since day one. We've never really lost or got away from our roots was everything has to happen through proper nutrition. And if you do it the right way, you're not doing it over and over and over again. So
yeah, it's great.
And, you know, you asked that question about like, what's the future like? The future in the weight loss industry is extremely optimistic in my mind because we're coming out with drugs that people believe in. That's the number one thing that makes a dietary program work is that a client has to believe that their result is something that they can achieve.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not a strong-minded, strong-willed person, the process of dieting is very, very, very treacherous and can be, you know, something that you'd really dread. Introduce these medications, all of a sudden take the burden and to a point the hassle of dieting away from somebody.
Definitely
all of a sudden
code.
they can believe in it. They believe that the outcome is achievable. They're evolving these medications more, but it requires people like us who know what we're doing to be educating those who are using them, to remind them, if you're using this drug, you have to consume protein. That's the biggest thing, like I say to every person that ever gets on it. Number one, you cannot starve the weight off. You have to be willing to have the protein to have the diet work. Like, rule of thumb is whatever weight you want to be, take that number by 1 gram of protein and consume it every single day. So if you're a 160-pound person and you want to be 140 pounds, inevitably consume 140 grams of protein. And for a lot of women, I tell them, they're like, there's no way I can eat that much. I'm like, well, then you shouldn't be doing this medication because this medication is going to make your appetite less. And if you're already having a struggle to consume that much protein to begin with, why are you going to take something that's going to kind of limit your appetite even further?
Yeah.
And 140 grams of protein, you know, you're talking about 7 grams of protein in an egg. You're talking about 20-something grams of protein in a small chicken breast. There's a lot of food that requires to be 140 grams of protein. And if you don't eat that much, you're going to be losing that muscle tone and inevitably losing bone density. And eventually you're going to be a person that's left with a lot of body fat and very little muscle tone. And you're going to have this very skinny fat appearance. And when you get 60 plus years old, it's going to be damn near impossible to lose it.
Sure. As far as a protein, like per sitting, is it like 40 grams your body can absorb?
I mean, it depends on guy, girl.
How about you? How about us?
Men, we can do about 40.
Okay, so you're eating like four meals of 40, right?
Yeah, but even that. So I mean, that's still, it's only 160 grams. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm saying,
which is still quite a bit.
Yeah.
How many protein grams you guys consume?
You know, I think we both do a higher, because I live in a more carnivore style dieting.
Yeah.
I do about 250 grams of protein a day.
I'm about 250 to 270.
Wow.
And I don't
hanging out with what's the guy's name that eats the raw meat?
Oh, the Liver King.
Liver King.
Jeff just eats the testicles.
But we're very different body types, so
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be like. It's hard for me to stay lean, so I eat relatively low carb, more protein, whereas he could have more carbohydrates and he's fine.
Although my wife just bought this like dehydrator, and we've been making like dehydrated beef sticks at home. It's just like.
It's great.
It's just crazy. Like I just eat like dehydrated beef sticks every day.
Nice.
Like live on them.
What do you guys think about this Liver King eating the raw? Can you do that? I thought you could die from eating that.
I mean, I'm not gonna do it.
I'm sure when he first started, he had his fair run of diarrhea and getting sick, but eventually built up the digestive enzymes to handle it.
Yeah.
I don't think like if you and I ran out and bought some, beef liver and just started munching on it raw. And I'm sure he gets it from a particular place that's clean and.
I don't know. I think a lot of that was for show and to follow.
Yeah, he did get a following, that's for sure.
One of our good friends actually deals with him as a Kenji,
Okay.
And
Oh, he does?
Sold him a car.
He did, really?
Yeah. So it was funny.
Is he a cool guy?
He sent me this video. He's equally as wild on the video
Yeah.
as he was in person, but he bought a Ford GT, I think, from Genji. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so it's funny, small circle. But yeah, the guy definitely seems like he's out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, hell of a businessman in marketing, and I mean, he's turned himself into a phenom.
Yeah.
Good
So
or
give me a
bad.
little rundown on diet, for example, just raw diet. I mean, you guys, do you still do that for people? Where you help them with an actual
Yeah, I mean,
diet?
we do it every day.
Just
within the
telling people
programs
how to-
or try to help them tighten up.
But you're not doing like you used to do, where
No,
they'd
not
be
to that
texting
level.
you,
Right.
their whole
Yeah.
meal. Yeah, you know. So tell me about diets. Like, if you just want to stay like for me, for example, if I just want to stay in good shape, how much? When do I stop eating? How many calories a day? How much protein? How much carbs? I mean,
personally,
roughly.
a simple way, a general way is make sure you have a protein at every meal.
Okay.
Wherever you're physically active, before, during, or after, have carbohydrates to support what you did or replenish what you
Yeah.
did, and eat relatively lower carbohydrates away from the physical activity time, and you'll keep a leaner physique and still be able to build muscle.
Okay.
I'll tell you,
Like, that's an easy way to do.
How low is low?
What do you mean? I always say like 100 gram of carbs. Maybe
Okay.
you shoot for 50 pre and post or 40 pre and post.
Okay.
But if you're trying to stay lean, depends on your body type though.
Yeah.
If you have a guy that's an ectomorph, he can handle
What's
a
that?
lot. Like someone who's a hard gainer, somebody
Okay.
who naturally is already stays lean. Like you could give somebody like that more carbohydrates and they're going to still stay lean.
Sure.
Versus someone who's an endomorph or endomeso. So that's me. I put on fat easy, but I also build muscle easy. So I usually go lower carbohydrate. I could still build muscle on low carbs.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how your makeup is.
Yeah.
a little bit of a unfortunate reality of the modern times we live in for those who train people on dieting. I'm going to burst your bubble a little bit here, but you can go on ChatGPT and literally type in, says, like, act like a nutrition coach. Write me out a 10-week diet for a 46-year-old man who's 210 pounds, who likes to eat protein, who works out 3 times a day. His body percent fat is around 10%. Give me detailed macro to micronutrients and the foods I should be eating with even the brand name suggestions and where I should be buying them, and give me some recipes to make it interesting. Hit enter. You will have a 10-page report that it goes as detailed as you could
It's
possibly
crazy.
imagine.
Wow.
That will blow away any of these online coaches. And you could say, get into it again. Now give me some that includes seafood. Remove the greens. I mean, to a point where it's obnoxiously accurate. So if you're struggling on trying to give yourself, the number one thing what people fail at is they don't have a plan. They have a want to be somewhere. They're where they are today, and they have a goal of where they want to get, but they don't know how to get there, right? So Jeff would always stress that you have to have a plan. That's your plan, and it's free. It's a 10-week strategy. Follow it 70%, 80%, 100%. You will get to where you want to get to.
But you could have the best
It's
plan until you
wild.
get punched in the mouth, man.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that's the adherence to the plan.
Tyson.
What makes you accountable to the plan? And I'll tell you, that's where a lot of people just lack accountability. I know so many people that have the resources or have the plan, they just can't stick to
Yeah.
it.
Go and play with that. It's so cool. And
I
you
know.
would ask it, like, give me some dietary supplements to recommend, or some, things, and to the point where it can make it so easy for you to really stick to. And you can check in on it every couple of weeks, and because it'll keep your profile and say, I lost 2 pounds this week, but I'm noticing that my energy's low. It'll say, well, increase your fats. And
Yeah. I have a 4-pack right now. I need 6 by this weekend.
12.
Does it say call Jeff Delaney?
we got to put you on some testosterone.
Jeff.
Like,
Testosterone,
that-
get rid of it
that's-
because it's the lower one.
Yeah.
That's testosterone right there.
Call Jeff.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get there by Saturday, but it's
Yeah,
that's a tall order.
That's a hard one to get right there.
Yeah, we need about a week and a half of a runway, but
So how many calories would I need to take a day,
I mean,
roughly,
usually
to just stay
what's your
what
weight?
do you weigh?
215?
Yeah, I mean, one, you figure out your basal metabolic rate. So you could take, your weight, or you could take your lean muscle tissue, and I would times it by your body type. So for most people, you could do it by 14 for you, times your body weight. So
Yeah.
I don't have a calculator.
215
I suck
times
at-
14.
Yeah. I don't know
What is it?
215 times
14.
14. I suck at math.
Let's see.
2280?
Yeah, it's-
30-10.
Yeah, so
30-10?
that's probably your
Your math isn't good either. 3,000.
But you know what's crazy about that is, like, you take 3,000 calories and have them positioned wrong with a different type of macronutrients and see a different outcome
Sure.
versus changing up the types of food, the time in the foods.
Yeah.
And there's
So-
something you said too about like again, if you do carnivore or keto, your caloric intake can be a lot higher because you don't have those carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And I know some people will sit here and argue with me, a calorie is a calorie, but I don't believe that, because I can eat really like hardcore keto and carnivore, and 4 whole eggs, 5 whole eggs for breakfast. I could eat like a big steak for lunch. I could have sausage and cheese and whatever for dinner, and I'm dropping weight like exponentially faster because I'm in a ketosis diet.
But to answer your question, say you want to drop from there, I usually take 250 or to 500 calories from food, and then try to get anywhere from 250 to 500 calories through physical activity.
Yeah,
and start there, and then you start making adjustments.
And you got to
go.
be realistic with the time frame. Like, people try to, like, a sad reality of weight gain and weight loss for some people is they wonder how they put weight on. And I'm like, look, if you gained a pound a month, would you even notice it? Like, I can gain a pound in a day and not really notice it, to be honest with you. Like, by the time you wake up in the morning and the time you go to bed at night, you're probably 2 to 3 pounds different, right? If you gained a pound a month for a year, that's 12 pounds a year. Times that by 3 years. Now you're 36 pounds heavier. You wonder, where'd the weight come from?
Yeah.
It's little things like that. So then they come to us and they're like, well, now I want to lose 30 pounds, but I want to lose in 2 months. It's like, it took you 3 years to gain it, but you want to lose it in 2. It doesn't work that way. You have to be patient, because you're going to lose the wrong thing. Yes, you could starve it off and look like shit and feel like
realistic
bad all the way,
expectations.
but then you're going to gain it back really, really quickly.
Yeah.
We have to set a tone of expectations and outcome, and long-term outcome. Like, you're trying to do it for this big weekend, whatever it is you're doing.
There's nothing.
Oh, I'm just making it up.
I was making it up.
But if you're going on like a cruise, or you're going on an anniversary trip, or you're going to your high school reunion, could you take some drastic measures to look good artificially for that short term? Going to Vegas for a pool party? Yeah, you could. That's not real weight loss or not real weight gain, because whenever you go back to your normal habits, it's going to resume like a homeostasis back to where it was.
You're going to look different the next day at the pool.
Pretty much.
You're better off getting in shape and just stay in shape.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Honestly,
Lifestyle.
looking back, I used to, all right, I'm going to get bigger and I'm going to put on some muscle, and I'd put on some extra fat, and you go to diet it off and you lose a good chunk of your muscle.
You kind of want to live your life within a 2-week reach of where you would ideally like to be. Like, I feel like if you're a bodybuilder, you're going to get far off because you got to bulk and really decline. But most people have this ideal weight that they like to be. You should be about 2 to 3 weeks away from that in a dieting component. And that's a safe place to get. If you get much further from that, before you know, you start throwing your hands in the air and you start gaining weight faster, because you're like, well, now I'm already 15 pounds up. Like, I might as well continue to eat poorly and not exercise as much. So I think the safeguard is about 2 to 3 week away from being like beach ready,
Yeah. Then get a better chance to get that bottom row if you need to.
Yeah, because once you got that 2-pack,
then
it's like, it's not even worth it, right?
No.
When you're at the 4-pack, man, you're like, I'm almost.
I'm close.
I'm
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. You got the 1-pack going.
It's just too far off.
Yeah. So let's talk about drinking habits, right? Alcohol, things like that. If somebody was going to drink an alcohol, and the healthiest alcohol that there was, lowest calories, lowest sugar, what would that be?
I think tequila.
Yeah, I mean,
tequila or vodka.
So I kind of look at it this way.
151.
I mean, listen, calories.
Burn everything.
Calories will help out, but one drink, whether it's a beer, a glass of wine, a shot of vodka, a shot of tequila, so has to process through your liver, right? So the main job of our liver is to break down processed fat, filter waste out of the system. And so I think that a lot of people think because it has lower calories, it's better. And yes, in the grand scheme of things, it is, but still, it's hard to lose weight when you're drinking alcohol. It makes it almost impossible. I could take someone who drinks and literally diet super, super strict and take the other person without drinking. They'll get far better results.
But you got to admit, when you're drinking, you burn more calories.
Yeah.
You're doing dumb stuff. You're drinking, you're dancing, you're doing whatever you're doing.
But
so
I mean, the real answer is when you're trying.
Maybe a net negative,
Well, and I always tell people, finding balance, because you want to still have life and go to dinner and have a glass of wine or have a couple drinks with the buddies. When you're trying to get down, be a little more strict with it and a little less frequent. And then once you're where you need to be, you could work it in and you're fine.
Sure.
It's remarkable, though, like if you are drinking consistently and having a hard time hitting your fitness goal, if you give it up, the leaps and bounds your body will take forward. Because I pretty much gave up drinking a couple years ago. I drink periodically on a dinner or whatever, but I was drinking often, more than I should every weekend, definitely having 10 plus drinks, throughout the course of the weekend. And I just was never really able to get where I wanted to be. And then I gave it up, and all of a sudden I was like, not only not feeling bad, but just the hydration of my muscle tissue, the thinness of my skin, the depth, I just felt like, man, I wasn't achy. My body worked.
Yeah.
And the alcohol is just robs yourself of getting where you want to be.
It does.
I went to dinner on Saturday for my wife's birthday, and we had like a glass of wine, and I think I had some I forget this like other wine that this guy had at this. It was a tasting menu. Next day, woke up, felt horrendous.
Isn't it
'cause
terrible? I know.
I'm like, dude, I can't even have a glass of wine now without feeling like shit.
Yeah, same here. My buddy of mine, he just turned 40. How old are you, Jeff?
I'll be 44.
Okay. He just turned 40 and he says, man, I just feel so like I had a beer last night. I feel terrible this morning. I couldn't get up. He says, I'm really starting to feel crummy. I said, that's welcome to your 40s.
Yeah.
I mean,
one drink,
it's
like not even worth. It's like not even worth it.
And
really.
I think too, like if like us, we take good care of ourselves. So the pendulum is swung in both directions so far that I feel like we swing it really far in the one direction by eating healthy and being clean. So if you do swing the pendulum in the other direction by going out and drinking bad and eating poorly, the differential is so big that you do feel significantly worse than a person who kind of runs their body down all the time.
Yeah.
It just becomes part of the norm. Like we all know that person who drinks. We have a friend, we'll name his names. Good shape. This guy drinks every night, lives in Vegas, like is in great shape. I don't know how he does it. He's got this other organ. Somehow he's around our age, looks great, performs, does it, goes out drinking every single night.
Wow.
I'm like, man, if I lived this guy's life, I would be in 6 feet under. There's just no way.
his body's like acclimated to it.
Yeah, it must be.
It's just normal.
I
It's
remember-
like water to us.
I remember going out back in the day and I'd have drinks. You'd stay up late. The clubs would close down at 2 a.m. And you'd be like, damn, it's already 2. I wish it was like midnight because I could still go a few more hours. You get up and play golf at like 7.
Yeah.
No rest. No problem. Sweat.
I can barely stay up past 10 o'clock anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm like struggling at 10 p.m.
I'm 11.
I go to
11
bed at
o'clock
like
is
9
my-
on my normal nights, but on the weekends, especially if I'm trying to watch UFC, I'm like, man, this fight, I'm gonna
struggling,
catch this one in the morning.
Jen calls me a senior citizen. She says, Joe, you're like, you're to bed at like 9 o'clock. She's like, nothing against senior citizens, of course.
Yeah.
But she says, your dad's old, he just doesn't like to stay up. I'm like, I get up at 5.
Yeah.
By the time 5 o'clock at night comes, I'm already yawning.
There's nothing good happening past that. Past dinner. Dinner.
You
right.
sound like your parent. What is this, like the Geico commercial? Or whatever
Yeah.
So take me back to when you guys met, you guys became partners, and some of the struggles that you guys have had along the way to get where you are today.
I mean, we originally met in the gym. I moved from Ohio, and man, it was like 2001 too. Remember meeting Alex in the gym.
I think some of our struggles. So Jeff and I went from owning clinics to this concept of franchising. We tried to grow the model fast, and we realized that, people wanted to kind of ride our success to a point, and they wanted to buy into it, and we were really frustrated with, kind of seeing ourselves succeed and them not doing as well, because we weren't really at that point where we felt we could train on like what we knew. We just knew our model worked.
Sure.
We brought people on, which depended on our ability to train them, and then we got frustrated because we were robbing Peter to pay Paul. We were taking away from our own running businesses to dedicate to their running businesses. We brought business partners in that definitely didn't pull their weight. That promised and under-delivered.
What happened?
Just like anything else, man. They come in and say they're going to do this, that, and the other, and then when it boils down to it, they either
Too many chiefs in the kitchen.
Slackers.
Too many cooks.
Yeah.
Or Jeff and I have a really great way of knowing each other's limitations, and we're very yin and yang. Like I don't step on his toes, and he doesn't step on mine. I know my role in this marriage, and likewise he does too. When you bring somebody else in who thinks that they're going to do similar tasks as you are, and I'm not one to sit here and say I deserve to be the alpha and you deserve not to be, but you can't have two personalities that are too similar in the same partnership.
Sure.
You will rub heads, and you will find yourself getting frustrated. But we brought partnerships in that we just didn't see eye to eye on. And again, it boiled back down to, I felt like we were doing the lion's share of the work. They were riding our coattails. When we had asked for a thing to be done, it was always like coming to us and asking, what do you want me to do? It's like, I'm not your boss. I'm your business partner. You come up with things that progress our business forward. So I think one lesson learned in my kind of experience is pick your partners very carefully. Pick your partners extremely carefully. Yeah. Like there's nothing greater of a lesson I can learn in my life than picking my partners carefully. Sure. I think one thing too, that in hindsight, like having been successful, although was a reward, also created its own obstacle. Like, when you're successful in a business, you're kind of scared to take a giant leap, because that thing that created that success that you were leaning into also kind of held you back from that giant leap that you want to do. Like an analogy that I like to say, it's like being a rock climber and knowing you want to get from like one cliff to another. If you're successful, you kind of have this rope holding you back, so you can only make a small enough jump. But a person who's not successful just yet can like take that rope off and make a giant leap, because there's nothing holding them back.
Sure.
And in hindsight, like I feel like having found small successes also limited our ability to be willing to jump forward faster than we probably did.
Yeah.
And again, I think unfortunately that came with bringing on some of these partners that just really pulled that rope back when we decided to jump when we did jump.
You guys risk takers?
I calculated.
Yeah.
As we get older,
Who's more of a risk taker between the two of you?
Alex will jump and we'll figure it out later. We'll build a plane on the way down.
I have
and
a lot
like
of
he'll come to me and be like, all right,
I have a lot of confidence, like I think my risks come with, I believe we can do it.
Well, he'll say it and then I'll think it through 10 ways, 20 different ways.
Course, yeah.
And I'm
why
like,
shouldn't
all right,
I do this?
Yeah,
What are the reasons why
Jeff is a very analytical person that analyzes something from every single angle. We have another really great business partner named Megan, who really is the kind of checks and balances on a lot of things that I've wanted to do over the years. In our other businesses, we've always had physicians that have been a little bit more conservative of some of the stuff we've been willing to do. But I've always looked at our team that I've been part of as like, guys, we're great at what we do. And if we're going to do it, we're going to do it great. And I think that's given us an opportunity to grow and a lot of confidence. We've been limited, like I said, by our own success. Would I have liked to do, like if you ask me now, what would I have liked to do differently along the way? I wish we would have embraced technology better earlier. I wish we would have embraced, social media better earlier.
Sure. We all do.
Yeah, but it is what it is. We're here now. I love what we do. I love our business. I think.
Well, and I think that's the most important part. I think that was finding somebody who matches what you're doing it for, right? The overall goal of what you're trying to accomplish. I think that was, we have a certain level or standard of care that we want to provide and give to the end user, and sometimes people do it for different reasons. Yeah. And so, at least we always we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff, and stuff we don't, but we talk it through really, really quick. And
you got to be it's just like a marriage, man. You got to be very respectful and very open. Like we have gone times where, we've been in these uncomfortable places and we've had to have these sit down conversations and say, what is going on? Like, why are we disconnecting right now? I used to live here. I moved away to Miami. I moved there because I wanted to be separated from the clinics, and I wanted to have the ability to work more administrative and not be so taken away. And Jeff was very much here to carry the burden of the employees and the day to day. And like when there was a hurricane, being the guy that brought the generator there, and there was a point, I'm sure, he'll openly admit that he felt like he was carrying the burden of the businesses along.
Yeah, because you're in the pit.
I'm in the trenches,
and
baby.
you get through that, because like what Jeff doesn't see is the hours and the time that I'm on the phone with the attorneys and the website development teams and all the things that I'm working on. But we respect the fact that we're each doing what we need to be doing, and when we don't, we have that conversation and say, "Bro, like, it's time for you to step up, man." It's not like I'm.
Well, listen, I love patient care. I love being in the clinic. I love like getting our team to be up to speed or be able to just make sure they carry it forward. Whereas he's a lot more just making sure, like, he'll shake the trees and make sure that, we have business.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's like when you're not here all the time, right? He doesn't see what you're doing.
Right.
And you see what he's doing, but you don't see what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard because you have to just trust each other and know, hey, man, he's not sitting back waiting.
There's things that I realize that he is close to, but not responsible for. And I had to kind of accept that. I mean, like an employee that's like screwing around in the office, like, bro, like that guy's right next door to you. And he's like, dude, I can't control all these people. And I have to accept the fact that you can't expect one person to like do all those things.
Sure.
'Cause it's just not fair either. And again, it goes back to like a marriage. Like, my wife, I can't expect her to do every single thing at the house, right? Like there comes a point, even though I'm the one maybe doing the business, making the money that we live on, I'm not like, babe, you got to do everything else. I have to help out periodically.
Of course, yeah.
And likewise, she has to help me out in the things I do.
Where does this go from here? Any goals?
I mean, last year's been restructuring Nuviva just to put us in a position to keep doing what we do probably the best. TClinics, where we've been really making some adjustments to improve just the overall care that we give. So
we just bought a new building in Naples, so
we might add a couple of things.
We're expanding into a new facility that's actually not in replace, but in addition to. So we bought another 3,000 square foot. Our office here in Fort Myers is expanding quite quickly, so we're looking for an expansion up there. We're looking.
That's hard to do, isn't it? It's a leap of faith because you got to go bigger. Yeah. Then you got to go newer.
It's employees.
You got to renovate it. You got to get more people, and then it's tough.
And we're trying to bring in a like a telemedicine platform.
Yeah.
So we're going to be working with people a little bit more distantly, which is the technology side I said before. I wish we embraced. So our business, is a little unique, man. You're dealing with regulations that are different than selling T-shirts and hot dogs. You know, we're dealing with medications that the FDA regulates. You're dealing with meta platforms that don't really love what we do. Social media does not really embrace what we do, so we can't advertise like traditional people would. Kind of like the financial markets are very limited on how they're allowed to advertise and things they're allowed to say. The medical is very similar. So what used to work does not work anymore. So we're always having to figure out kind of a way to stay, relevant in this ever-changing world of medicine. And hopefully this new administration is going to be a little bit more lenient with our industry and making it a little bit easier for us. But
I always say just keep perfecting the craft, right?
That's right.
Just every day try to be a little bit better. It's like we add a service or adjust the service. I mean, I'm still learning to this day, and I've been in healthcare for 20 years, so.
Well, it comes down to like sports, right? I mean, you played sports, wrestling,
football and wrestling.
And then how about you?
I played baseball when I was younger.
He was skinny.
Yeah, man. I was
growing up. He was a scrawny kid.
Yeah.
And your boy plays sports as well.
Yeah, right? He did up until recently. Yeah, he was playing baseball up until. I know your kid's a beast. I've seen. He's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. It's tough though when you're a dad and you're trying to coach your kids and tell them all the things and they don't want to listen.
He don't want to.
Yeah. I'm a coach. I coach Jake. He's 10, but at a certain point you can't really coach him anymore because
unless you're better off passing it off to one of the other coaches. Let him deal with your kid.
I'm his life coach.
Yeah,
but obviously he needs a coach that better with swings and throwing positions.
You can't always be there to tell him he's great. You have to at times say you can do better, and I think that's. We were just having a conversation with one of our employees this morning, and I kept saying to him, like, listen, I'm only coming to you with a little bit of hard love here, which is I only say what I say to you because I know you can do better.
Yeah.
If I didn't think you could do better, I wouldn't be telling you could do better, right? So if I thought you sucked and if I thought you were dumb and I thought you were lazy, then I wouldn't be sitting here pushing you to be better and to do more, closings and to see more clients. And the same thing, you guys with kids who play sports, you wouldn't push your kid who's playing, a pitcher to throw more strikes if you didn't think he could.
Yeah.
At some point, you'd say, buddy, you're doing as good as you probably could do. So, coaching and support comes with,
right end of the bench.
I think us as men, our jobs are to be a little bit of tough love. You know, and it's not always to give your greats to everybody because those greats don't come with too much merit after a while. If you're always you're doing good, buddy, even though he's not. Like at times you're like, come on, man, like you could do better.
Well, it's like sports and life. You got to be able to be coached in sports and in life. You just can't think you know everything, right? I know everything. I'm just gonna, not listen. You got to take constructive criticism from people. You got to be a good listener. That's it.
Best in the world continue to get coached all the way to the end. Tom Brady got coached. Michael Jordan got coached. I mean,
yeah, you're right.
If we think that we're better than Brady or Jordan in our fields, we're not.
That's right.
I feel like half the time I'm learning every single day, almost to a point where I'm relearning everything I know all over again. And that is like cool, but it's also a little scary because you're almost like, damn, I'm so uncertain about where I'm going to be in the future. You know, like how much is this business going to change? How much new information is going to come out? Do I have to go through another course again? We go to courses that doctors go to because we're in the business of medicine.
Yeah, sure.
And although I'm not formally trained, my clients expect me to know as much, you know, and so.
Yeah. So question for each of you guys. If you don't know how old you were, how old would you think you are?
I feel like I look old.
Look or feel?
Feel.
Depends on the day. I would say mentally I feel 20.
Okay.
Physically I feel 44.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go with a rounded out 40, man. I feel like I look better than probably most guys at 46. I feel like I'm thinking sharp, but I'm mature enough to know what I wish I knew when I was 35. I wish I knew what I know now.
Sure. I'm almost 50, so I think the older, when you start to get around 50, I'm the oldest of the boys here. But you don't feel like I don't feel like I'm 50. I look like my grandparents when they were 50.
Oh,
you know,
it's
the
different.
wife beater with the the hair. We didn't look that way.
Hey, listen, if you look at the Golden Girls, like Blanche was like 45 or 46, at the time, and my wife is 46, and I look at these women now, I'm like, damn, like, what a different the world used to be. If you look at some of I saw a post that showed like what 40-year-old actors were in the shows that they were doing, what like a 46-year-old guy looked like. I'm like, holy, these guys look like they were like senior citizens. So the one thing I say, man, is like, I wish I knew what I know now when I was younger. I just wish I could do it again, obviously, with the knowledge base that I have now. And not so much just the knowledge in the industry I am, but how to deal with people, the patience I have, the empathy that I carry, the respect that I have for others. I used to be a little bit more of an asshole, a lot more difficult to deal with.
Sure.
I'm very open to admit that. I had a very headstrong attitude towards things. Maybe that's what got us where we are. I don't know. But I also now starting to be a lot more humbled as I get older, and starting to realize that there's only so many more times around the sun that I get before, it's time to start wondering, when do I get off this ride of entrepreneurship and working like this?
And we could technically be 20, because if they figure out a way to make us live to 120, 130 years old, we could just be young bucks. We could just be young bucks, man. Favorite movies? What movie have you seen more than any other movie?
Well, I mean, that's easy. Forrest Gump.
Okay.
So in college, they used to play it over and over again. So I know that movie like the back of my hand.
Movie I've seen more. It wasn't my favorite, but same story as to I think it was either Night at the Roxbury.
Great movie.
It's so stupid.
Great movie.
Or Ace Ventura. But I would definitely not say that those are like I'm not a repeat movie guy. But I do love movies, man. I watch a ton of TV.
Yeah, so do I.
I watch a ton of movies. It's very much my way of unplugging.
When you watch those movies, you can recite the whole thing.
You know what? Unfortunately, back then I smoked
a
lot of pot back then, so I don't remember anything. But no, I don't know, man.
That's great.
What's your favorite?
What's yours?
I guess what genre, really, because I've seen so many movies. I would say the movie I've seen the most is Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that movie
hundreds
of times. Yeah. It's on the background. I can recite the movie. Of course, Old School.
Like Christmas Story.
That was a good one. Yeah, Shoot Your Eye Out, Kid.
Yeah. Or
Wolf of Wall Street. You gotta love.
There's
those.
so many.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Yeah.
What's your favorite TV series?
TV series? We're actually watching watch Game of Thrones, and now we're watching what's the next one? The House of Dragons.
Ah, it's terrible.
Yeah, I'm like 5 episodes in. I'm like, I feel like just
I'll
stopping.
tell you,
I don't watch TV.
Favorite TV series is Black Monday.
Really?
Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh my! Go home and watch it.
Really?
Guys.
I will.
It's such a great series. Don Cheadle's in it. It's kind of like in the early 80s.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
It is just like they didn't give a shit. There was nothing woke about it. They go at every component.
Nice. I'll check it out.
It's the most anti-woke TV show for all the right reasons. It's great. You'll love every character development. Breaking
Bad, Dexter.
Up there. Yeah. The new Dexter is great if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it yet. No.
Great. It's like when he's a kid.
Yeah.
They casted it really well. It's to a point. It's actually really.
I purposely don't get tied up into series. I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I'm a more of a. It's that, and then I do UFC every Saturday night, and
That's
I watch
usually my
football.
go.
Yeah. Sometimes Jen is up a little bit later than I am because she gets up later. That's the way it goes. Yeah. But she'll be watching something and she'll go 2 or 3 episodes in, like a little further than I go. And then the next night I'm going back because I got to stop where I left. She's like, Joe, I've already seen all this.
But my wife and I
I'm like way ahead of you.
We get in fights about that. My wife is not allowed to watch our series that we watch ahead of time. And I'm like, if you do, you better lie about it and tell me you haven't seen it because we're going to watch this together. Like,
that's right.
We're going through this together the first time.
That's right. How about favorite food?
I'm a steak guy, man. I could just tear up steak. I can eat steak every day.
Beef or sushi.
Portillo's beef?
I was a sushi guy until I saw this video on how
don't tell me. I still like
can't
sushi.
watch it.
Don't ruin it for me.
But it's good. It's definitely good. But I don't want to see all that. How it's made, please.
Or just what's
just the quality. Years ago, like food quality was great. Now it's just ugh.
Yeah.
Pizza, good pizza, man. It's a good pizza.
I love it.
I'm a dessert guy. Like as I get older, I don't know what it is about as you get older, but I remember my grandfather was always a sweets guy. Like I now have to have like a cookie or something every night. Like I tell my wife, like make cookies. Like I'm always.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Wings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I saw your pops. I was, where was it? Buffalo chips.
That's the best spot in town.
I tried. It was good.
Yeah, good.
If you haven't
wings.
been there, you should go there.
No.
It's good. Dive. Great place though.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was good.
Fried wings or like smoked?
Fried.
Okay. I like a smoked wing.
Do you? Yeah. Break them apart.
Yeah, just I don't know, the deep fry.
Yeah. How about music? Favorite band or individual?
Post Malone,
Okay. He's pretty talented.
I would
dude.
say, and it just rolls off just because I was listening to it coming in. I used to be like into hip hop until I realized after the Diddy shit that they're all they were all doing some crazy
Yeah.
stuff back then and not cool. Electronic music at the gym, driving country,
Yeah.
or Post Malone.
I would
So
say the same.
Yeah.
Like I'm very, like I don't have anyone in particular.
I feel like hip hop is just awful. I mean, when we were younger, it was great, but like I said,
Come on,
man,
man. Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
such the worst
It's
halftime show
painful.
I've ever seen in my life.
I'd say more old school for me. Back in the day, Run DMC, Mobb Deep. We do like Eminem, like
Pharside.
Biggie, Farside.
It's funny,
I
my
was listening to Pharside the other
Passing
day.
me
funny,
by.
my son listens to everything I listen to. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, but if you really like
That's
old
good.
Travis Scott
That's
was
good.
good, like when he first came out.
Yeah.
Like I love Kanye West, but he's gone a little off the rocker.
He
now.
has, man. Yeah.
The
I
swastika's
don't even
all
like.
over.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But I mean, listen, I'm a big Kanye fan. And I hate the fact that we know all this about celebrities now. Like there was a time where you didn't know anything about the celebrities. Like my wife hates half the celebrities because of their political positions or their social media personas.
Yeah, you
and it's
can't.
like just leave yourself as being what you are.
Music.
You're a musician and just shut the
Yeah.
up. You
Let
know?
'em get
Same as
crazy.
athletes. Like catch the ball, dribble the ball, like dance monkey. Like you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Like
that's right.
you're an entertainer for a purpose.
Yeah.
And now it's like you got to flex your political position anyway. So it gets a little obnoxious. But
Yeah.
I love Kanye. And I just wish he didn't go off the rocker because
Yeah.
I was hoping for a comeback.
I know.
I don't think
Don't
that's
call it a
happening.
comeback.
If he comes back,
Who's that? What music? Don't call it a comeback.
LL Cool J.
No.
You got it, man. Mama said knock you out. Fellas, it's great today, man. I
man.
appreciate
Great
you
catching
guys.
up.
Great catching up. Here we are, man.
Here we are.
You know, from the Beat Club
do it
to
again in 20 years.
the Joe Show. I mean,
Beat
we've
Club
come
to
long
the
way.
Joe
We've come
Club.
big ways, man.
I mean, I thought we'd be on Rogan by now, but we're on the Pavich.
I know. You're
So,
just on the
there's
Pavich
two
show. You're
different
working your
Joes.
way up the ladder.
He said
though.
we're going to Joe's podcast. I was
Yeah.
like, Rogan? He's
Nice.
like, no, Pavich.
Pretty
I was like,
well.
oh, man.
Maybe.
Soon.
We're almost there.
Maybe.
Maybe
Never
I'll hear
know.
this one.
Yeah. So give me some really quick words of wisdom for the listeners from a couple goats.
Take good care of yourself, man. You got one.
That's all you
got
got.
one time at this. You know, eat right, train daily. You know, make sure you sleep enough. Like, do not run your body into the ground because you only got one shot. Like,
Yeah.
I see it so often. You know, we hear about people that just abuse the hell out of their bodies and don't take care of themselves, and then want to be fixed when all of a sudden they're feeling like shit. It's like you cannot expect to allow yourself to live a happy life when your body looks bad and you're sick.
Yeah.
Like don't worry about the nice car, the nice clothes, the nice jewelry. Take good care of yourself physically,
Yeah.
and it'll repay itself. That's
That's
the
right.
one thing that I am very happy about that I did early in my life was start caring about the way
Sure.
I feel and look. So
That's great.
that's me.
Well, I think the message of the show, man. Is
I mean, that's
just,
it. Honestly, that's why
right
I got
there.
into what we do. You know, I work critical care, and I used to see people on their deathbed that were maybe there earlier because they didn't take care of themselves, and they had all the money or they had the family, but they're gonna die. And like it's just be proactive.
You know,
It doesn't have to be
How many
that
times
way
have you
for
heard
sure.
Jeff, people say, like, I don't have time to go to the gym because I work so much, or I can't afford
That's
this.
too expensive.
I can't afford this, the peptides, the hormones. I'm like, what kind of car you drive? Oh, well, you know, I got a Corvette or whatever. How much is that Corvette? Well, it's $1,200 a month. I'm like, so you tell me you can't put $200 towards your health program
Yeah.
to make your body look and feel better,
That's right.
but you want a cooler watch or a nicer suit? Like, I don't care how expensive my clothes are. My body looks good. Like,
Yeah.
I look good in a t-shirt and
But
a
more
pair of shorts.
importantly, feel good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when the clothes come off, I look even better.
Nice. Love it, man.
I didn't want to picture that, but okay.
You've seen it.
Yeah. That's great. Well, really, man, it's a great show today, and I think the message is really about health, right? Taking care of yourself, not only physically, but mentally, being a good leader for your kids, showing them,
Let me ask you
the way, right?
You deal with a lot of high net worth individuals. You sold some of the most probably beautiful, expensive homes in Naples. What are those people who have all that money in the world's message to you as you were kind of younger being in the industry? Like,
the best message I got was, Joe, if I could have made more money, that would have been great. But looking back at it, I'd rather make less money and spend more time with the kids. Yeah. Spend time with the kids. That's what they all tell me. Not all, but I've heard that.
Majority of
more and experiences.
Spend time with your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the message.
All the shit that matters when
balancing,
you're about to die.
It's funny how this world works. It's balancing. When you finally figure it out, it's too late.
Yeah, you're right. Well, tell the camera where they can reach you guys.
Check us out, TClinics USA on any social platform, or Nuviva Weight Loss on any social platform. Check out our YouTube. We have our own podcast, which we're going to be making Joe come on.
Coming.
TClinics. It's called The Man Lab, so you can check us out on Spotify, YouTube. And obviously our website's tclinicsusa.com or nuvivaweightloss.com.
Pretty simple.
It's a great name. Love the name, Man Lab. You can reach me on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or www.the Joe Pavich podcast. And thank you so much today. Hope you enjoyed the episode with my boys here, Jeff and Alex. Hope to get some feedback from you, and thanks again.